St. Louis has always been a baseball town. In 1875, the St. Louis Brown Stockings became the first professional baseball team for St. Louis. And in 1876, pitcher George Bradley threw the first no-hitter in the history of baseball for St. Louis. In 1899, the team changed its name to the Cardinals. The Cardinals' legendary performance with manager Branch Rickey brought a win in the 1926 World Series and guaranteed that every kid in St. Louis would dream of becoming a baseball player. Baseball legends like Yogi Berra and Joe Garagiola played baseball as kids in the streets and empty lots of St. Louis's ethnic neighborhoods. Those dreams included the kids in the poor neighborhoods around Chouteau and Hickory and 9th Streets, where rough and tumble youngsters from Irish, German, Middle Eastern families played the game wherever they could and with whatever equipment they could scratch together. Among these kids were Roy and Herman Tipton, John Cody, Dizzy Daniels. There were some Irish kids, some Jewish kids, and a couple of Syrian boys, Pete Webby and Joseph Mulehead Simon. And later, they would be joined by another Syrian kid named Jimmy Michaels. These kids would end up with their names in the paper, but not for playing baseball. I'm standing at 715 Hickory Street, where long ago there was a rundown tenement building. In this building lived the Tipton brothers. Other friends on the block and the surrounding streets were Timothy Mush Sullivan, John Joyce, Little Tommy Brennan, James Stillman, Manuel Bieber. It was a diverse, all-American bunch of boys playing the all-American game. These kids played an intense and scrappy brand of baseball, and since there were no referees, disputes were settled with bare knuckles. They were a good team, and they were exciting to watch. Grown-ups gathered around to watch the game. A local soft drink company offered to sponsor this little neighborhood baseball team, and so the kids took the name of the Soda Pop brand as their team name. St. Louis is famous as a center for the beverage industry. It was already a beer town since the middle of the 1800s with the growth of big brands like Lemp and Anheuser-Busch that shipped their beer from St. Louis all over the nation. But since the coming of Prohibition in 1920, the beverage industry had to diversify into selling soda pop to survive. So hundreds of soft drink brands sprang up to satisfy the thirst of a nation and to try to save thousands of jobs and keep the bottling plants open. One such brand is Vess, a St. Louis beverage company. Vess is still producing beverages today, and here in St. Louis, you will see Vess soft drinks on the shelves in the grocery stores. Behind me is an advertising gimmick or a tourist attraction that's billed as the largest soda pop bottle in the world. So in the 20s, one of the employees at Vess was a man named C.L. Griggs. Later on, Mr. Griggs would be famous for inventing 7-Up. But at this time, he was working for Vess, where he invented a drink called Whistle, and another named Howdy, and an obscure brand called Cuckoo. It was Cuckoo that chose to sponsor the little neighborhood baseball team from the rough side of Chouteau and 9th Street. And that name stuck to this bunch long after they stopped playing baseball. The Cuckoo baseball team was good at baseball and fighting, and soon they found they were good at other things too, like stealing. I'm at the historic Soulard Farmers Market. This is one of the oldest and most famous places in St. Louis, and it was here, among other places, that the Cuckoos carried on their nefarious activities. What they would do is one kid would cause a disturbance, and while the owner of the produce stand came out to chase him, the other kids would go in behind them and clean it out and take whatever they wanted. At other times, they would follow the mailman around and steal whatever they could get out of the mailboxes after he moved on. This kind of behavior got them noticed by real criminals, like the Chouteau Avenue gang. The older thugs took it on themselves to educate the younger boys in how to commit bigger crimes like robbery and burglary. The Cuckoos ran errands and did little jobs for the big gangs, and the gang members brought them into their clubhouses and their saloons on 10th Street and Chouteau, and soon the Cuckoos were not just getting in fistfights, they were carrying guns. Soon a gang war between the Chouteau Avenue gang and their rivals, the Berry Street gang, broke out. The Cuckoos became involved when one of their members got hurt. So when Frank Morrissey, who had been running with the Berry Street gang, went to a saloon on South 4th Street to try to negotiate peace, the Cuckoos showed up and gunned him down. There was much more to come. The little baseball team with the funny name would soon become one of the most terrifying gangs that St. Louis had ever seen. In this episode, we've witnessed the birth of the Cuckoo Gang, a gang that would turn out to be one of the most powerful forces in the St. Louis underworld. In the next episode, we'll see the rise of the Sicilians, the Cosa Nostra, and we'll begin to see the dynamics emerging of the gang wars that would drench the streets of St. Louis in blood. I'd like to remind you that if you really want to know the whole story of what happened during the gang wars of the 1920s, you need to pick up this book by Daniel Waugh, The Gangs of St. Louis. This is an excellent book. It's historically accurate and very well researched. I highly recommend it. And thank you for watching.